Hey there, what's happening everybody? It's Snoo. Today I want to bring you an update video for some of my previous League starters updated to patch 3.24 Necropolis League. Now this is the video I usually come out with, but it involves like actual gameplay footage and updated conversation about it, each individual League starter given its own video. I'm not going to do that this time, and I think I'm going to change my format, how to move this forward for a number of reasons, mainly because the list keeps growing and I have to keep cramming more and more into the League start prep process. So I don't want to devote forever and a day to these kind of videos. Just want to kind of get it slammed out for you. I will link the original League Start videos in the description down below. By the way, big shout out to you guys. Thank you for all your comments and feedback for the more recent Elemental Hit build guide that came out with. I was very much on the fence about pulling the trigger on the super concise, polished guide that I haven't really done since Poison Tornado Shot. Many of you didn't even realize I can make videos like that, but they are extremely time consuming, and I'm glad I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. It has left me short on time to get things out, but this is a new Word file, and I think I'm just going to save this and I'm just going to build onto it from here on out. You can see their nice little sad face, smiley face, just try to bring the information as cleanly to you as possible. And yeah, let's get to this. We've got 4 builds in mind. We've got Poison Tornado Shot, Poisonous Concoction, Explosive Concoction, Toxic Rain, and then Elemental Hit even has there's one line of text on the build that is coming out soon. There are timestamps linked down below for your convenience. Okay. In 3.21, I came out with a build, one of my more popular ones, called Poison Tornado Shot with Magic Find. And it's been doing absolutely great. It's a terrific build to run even last league. There was a minor nerf to it in the form of temporal chains nerf, but that didn't impact it in a major way leading up to this point. That was many patches ago. Now this time around, Tornado Shot really got axed pretty hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it's unviable. I think the build's going to be totally viable still, but definitely worse than it has ever been up to this point. The core speed of the skill gem is now 4/5 of what it used to be, regardless of whatever speed you're attacking at. It will be 4/5 the speed that it would have been prior to this upcoming patch. The skill now costs more, 2 additional mana. I don't think it's going to be a huge amount, depending on where your threshold was on that. The difference between 2 and 4 mana is kind of big, but anyway. Moving on, we got the quality change. This is perhaps the biggest nerf. We were gifted the Helm Enchant in the form of quality in the recent time around, but that has now been removed. So no more enhanced gem for even more secondary projectiles. It has been changed to another valuable stat, to be fair, 40% increased projectile speed, but I would much, much, much rather have 1 additional secondary projectile as opposed to 40% projectile speed. So major nerf there. Now, yeah, you're going to hit way less often shotgunning. Let's just put it that way. And the clear will suffer for it as well. Soul Eater has also been nerfed to a maximum of 45 stacks. That's not as bad as what many people think it is. Yeah, I could get Soul Eater stacks through Zerfy's Heart up to 200 or more sometimes. But 45 stacks still feels quite impactful compared to 0 stacks. And the difference between like 45 stacks and say 450 stacks is actually less meaningful than 0 to 45, I would say. So while this does look like a massive nerf, it's really not that bad. So all of this here in red means nerf. Anything in purple means kind of neutral, and then blue would be categorical buffs here. And yeah, so Tornado Shot, Poison Tornado Shot, very sad about this, unfortunately. You can read the major changes to the skill gem here. That is what happened to Tornado Shot. Sorry. It's still a good build because Tornado Shot will always be such a very strong skill as it stands, but I'm not encouraging anybody to try it this time around. It's definitely the worst off it's been ever before. Let's see if we can find anything about Poisonous Concoction. Poisonous Concoction did not have any changes. However, a new Transfigure gem was gifted to this skill gem, and that's what this is mostly about. So Poisonous Concoction is in a very good state, just automatically. Highly recommend League starting that build still. Poison is still extremely strong as the League starter right now. But anyway, let's talk about the Transfigure gem, which was revealed in some footage by GGG. But anyway, we're going to go to, yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead and push this up here. This is the new Poison's Concoction of Bouncing. So we have the text for it. We have the reveal. We have some footage of it in play, but we don't have everything. We don't know everything about it. So still a lot of conjecture about this Transfigured Gem. A lot of people are excited about it, though, so I do want to make a point of that. If you see on here, this gem usually costs 1 life flask charge per projectile thrown. And in my build, it's like 12 projectiles. Instead, it will now cost you 6 life flask charges no matter what, assuming you have them. I'm guessing it won't cost any if you have 5 flask charges. I'm not sure about that. But it transforms the projectiles into additional chains, and you will default at 2 chains. So even with 1 projectile, it'll chain twice. So my build had, I think, 12 projectiles, so it will chain 14 times then, but only fire 1 projectile, so it will go for a very long time. That will be some delayed damage, so keep that in mind. In terms of clear, I definitely think the clear is going to be slower. It might be better overall. It might be worse, probably going to be worse on that. But anyway, I'm counting this as kind of a neutral change, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's an extra gem that you don't even have to use. So, I mean, it's just nice to have an extra gem. That might be good. The gem also adds as clearly a surprising amount of flat damage per flask charge, or when it uses the flask charge. So that is pretty good. I think it was like a 3x factor there. About 3 times the added damage per life flask, or per instance that it uses life flask charges than the regular skill gem. Anyway, yeah, sorry, kind of worded that weird, but anyway, some nice benefits from actually using the life flask charges. The Transfigured Gem also may mean that Fury Valve is now viable. Now, this is a special amulet that is, well, actually not very special because it's not popular at all. It basically has a couple downsides, or what most people would perceive as downsides, transforming your additional projectiles into something worse, splits, I suppose. And in the event that you're using this on, you know, something like, I guess, Poisonous Concoction, it would actually be a terrible idea because it can't split. It can't split at all. But in the case of this Transfigured Gem, it's not splitting anyway, it's chaining. So I don't think the downsides are going to apply. That's what the conjecture is here. We don't really know for sure, which means this amulet would be all upsides with everything that I've just highlighted here. So that is kind of exciting to factor in. This is a pretty good amulet considering just how unpopular and cheap it is, if that is indeed all upside. So that's the status on Poisonous Concoction. Very strong League Starter. I mean, I always recommend that. That League Starter could be nerfed in half and it would still be decent. We're going to move on to Explosive Concoction. Now, this is probably my least popular one of all, I guess. I definitely think this is my most underrated League Starter. I put it on here because I think it's really good, and it is the one that received the most love this time around. Explosive, let's actually get that right, sorry. Concoction now has 10% flat crit chance. Recently it was 8, and it was originally 6%. So this sucker has gone from 6 to 8 to now 10% flat chance. That is like crit chance on the weapon, by the way. That is not added. That's not just increased crit chance. That is core crit chance where the multiplying numbers begin at. So huge deal there. You might recall that in recent times, Explosive Concoction, the Transfigured Gem now gives you crit multi as well, and that's what you want. Is Explosive Concoction Destruction. So you now get crit multi and more crit chance than you had before. It's going to hit way harder than it did when I ran the build initially 2 leagues ago. Elemental Flasks from 20% damage reduction of their element to 5% max res, or plus 5 max res. Now, this is, from what I understand, is an actual buff to characters who don't even prioritize any of these stats, just because it will get us much closer to the max 90 all res. We won't hit it all the way, but on Pathfinder, it is going to be pretty big if you were not already stacking max res and then getting added benefits from the DR. If you were just sitting at 75 max all res already, that's a big deal, and that's going to be an overall improvement to your defenses in terms of elemental defenses. So nice there. I don't think this is a huge impact, but Anyway, pretty nice. What is a huge impact is the buff that just occurred to Yoke of Suffering from 5 to 10% increased damage taken per ailment. That is not just elemental ailment, that's all ailments, which is really interesting because I've thought about building in poison and bleed into elemental builds just for the bonus here, but it's never quite worth it. Well, with 10% roll, it is going to be worth it, I can tell you, when we check the PoE numbers. So you're going to want to try to get every single ailment you can with Yoke of Suffering. It may be harder to acquire, so maybe a nerf in ability to acquire the item. I don't know. Drops from T17 bosses now. But as far as the item, I'm still leaving it in the League starter. It's still tremendously strong. And, you know, because I don't want to change League starter too much if I don't have to. But anyway, big buffs there. Mute Wind Pennant lost Call to Arms. This is a nerf because Mute Wind Pennant definitely got nerfed. So Call to Arms is the keystone that's getting changed. I can't remember the name, Warlord something, and it now basically gives your war cries to allies. And Call to Arms still exists in the game, and is now a support gem, which is all right because we can still squeeze it in. We can still use Enduring Cry and just add it in if we want to. I believe the Path of Building will have that in there for you, the updated one. Swapped Mute Wind for Leper's Alms, which is another great shield that I like to use. And just so you guys see it here. Leper's Alms is actually the shield of choice for Poisonous Concoction. It's much stronger than that for increased duration of ailments on enemies, but increased duration of ailments on enemies also includes elemental ailments, which helps for higher uptime on the buffs from Yoke. For example, also gives you Shared Suffering, and this is an Impulsa build with the Vinctor flasks, so we're constantly shocked. We're throwing out shocks on everything we hit. If you get ignited in this case, it's a little bit better because we're actually able to throw the ignite back off onto the enemy. And chills will be able to stop chill effects more easily with Shared Suffering. So minor buff there. It also has suppress and even more evasion and more life. So this shield is really nice to have. I was using Mute Wind as sort of a niche shield to get that call to arms, but it's now a support gem. So I'd say, you know, even though I have this as a red and a purple here, it honestly feels more like a purple blue. But anyway, yeah, take that for what it is. I think Explosive Concoction looking real pretty after this time around. Again, Path of Buildings for all these ones I'm mentioning are updated and in the description, just like the original videos were. All right, so Toxic Rain was my League starter last time around. See if we had anything from Toxic Rain. No. Toxic Rain, no mana or no Transfigured gem changes. It did get a few Transfigured gems recently, but I don't think there's many impacts there. The only major impact to Toxic Rain, my League starter last time, is the removal of the Mana Cost Flask Benchcraft, which is the only one of my League starters on this list that used that craft. I love that craft. It is extremely build enabling, and it completely wrecked the interactions we have with Divine Blessing and Malevolence Aura, which I'll talk about in just a second. But yeah, so to get around that, so that is a major nerf. But to get around that, I've changed the suffix over to stun immunity, which was nice because I kind of wanted to have that in there but couldn't fit it in. So that's kind of that is a pretty high value swap there. And yeah, okay. And then also swap Daraso's Defiance. I should probably type Defiance, yeah. For Carcass Jack, which is, you know, nice because it gives AoE. Carcass Jack is kind of a staple chest for Toxic Rain, but I needed to have a high energy shield flask, or chest, body armor, sorry, because I'm going to go ahead and skip a line down here. I'm also going to pick up Eldritch Battery, which has allowed me to keep Divine Blessing Aura in place. Actually allowed me to add Defiance Banner back into the build. Had enough suddenly. So was able to pull points out of the stun, 3 points out of stun, add 3 points to get Eldritch Battery. So actually it ended up seemingly being an improvement because we were also able to swap out a couple other gems that weren't really high value, such as Val Haste and Increased Duration. I mean, it was just for Val Haste, not regular haste. And able to throw an Enduring Cry and Call to Arms. So suddenly able to get the War Cry into this build that didn't have it before. Even more reliable endurance charges into Toxic Rain, which was suffering for not having very much defensive layers because it is also, it's like a very low budget, well for me, very low budget Magic Find build. So I would say overall improvement, actually, to the build, thanks to the Call to Arms gem, and it kind of made me get my creative juices flowing, so I had to like figure out what to do with it. And the Eldritch Battery ended up being even better than I thought. And I might have looked into it before last time, if not for the Mana Flask thing. So it was a lot more to do with just realizing that I could improve the build straight up than anything. But pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's not a bad time to try the Toxic Rain MF strat if you want to go for some strong box MFing early this league. I don't know. So, last line will be for Toxic Rain MF, and this is just kind of an honorable mention because we have a new Transfigure gem that I don't know why, but we still don't know what it is. Perhaps I should have waited to make this video tomorrow or the day after. Really surprised we don't have any data on what this is. I don't know. It could be an absolute game changer. It could really put my league starter on the map, potentially. But, you know, it's a decent chance of it being a complete nothing burger too. But I just want to give it an honorable mention. Looking forward to seeing what happens next time. I'm going to save this Word file and we'll kind of update it as the, you know, subsequent leagues occur. And so I'll be able to kind of easily use this format, make this video each time. So yeah, use the PoE Wiki, the patch notes. You can all take a look at that. A lot of resources in the description below. But that's going to conclude this video. Thanks again, guys, for watching and continuing to watch. I will be pumping out a lot of content prior to the league launch. Okay, that's it. I'll see you in the next video.